Caroline is here.
So there are times when our minds are very active, maybe even sometimes feeling manic. So let this be once again a time of meditation. I'm going to ask if you would to allow your body to be grounded where you are and take a deep breath in and slowly release it. This time, take another deep breath in, but as you release it, imagine yourself releasing all your tears that may be held back. When I was in high school, I read, like many of you, I read Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, but that's the only one I remember. And somehow I never encountered stopping by woods on a snowy evening. So when last Sunday, Peter Fitch introduced it to us, it struck me as kind of ironic. This is the poem that actually speaks to the life I've lived and maybe you. This is the poem that maybe I needed back then and only discovered here much later, long after the curriculum had moved on. And maybe that's for the best. Could be that some poems we only understand after we've lived through enough nights. Last week, Sarah Bessey wrote something that's been holding my attention. And for those who don't know her, Sarah Bessey is a Canadian writer and theologian who describes herself as an Anglican influenced, charismatic, post evangelical with a strong pull toward Anabaptist theology. And she writes with a fierce compassion. She's been shaped by the margins, by motherhood, by justice work, by spiritual reconstruction. And last week, she wrote these words. Many of us are tired in body, absolutely. But perhaps more honestly, we are also weary in spirit and soul and heart. It's not just inflation and the job market. It's also the state of, well, everything. It's the scrolling and the politics, the disappointment and the despair, the violence and cruelty, the broken relationships and battered hearts that somehow still yearn for a thrill of hope. This guide is for all of us who know the dark nights, who know what it means to wait, who know what it means to yearn for love and for light and for a freaking break for once. Sarah Bessey's naming of exhaustion makes Robert Frost's quiet moment feel, for me, even more true. Some of our exhaustion doesn't come from struggle, it comes from watching people pretend. And that includes the people who claim to lead. And I don't only mean this perverted president and Fox News narcissists in his administration. The political class has too few genuine leaders. More, I call them misleaders. Too often, government officials, especially those in powerful positions, are just celebrities and entertainers, not true leaders. This includes sadly, the Congressional Black Caucus. Many elected officials play roles aimed at protecting their own power rather than challenging it. Representation is not the same as liberation, and proximity to power is not justice. I'll tell you who the real leaders are. The real leaders, and we might not even know, they may not even be famous. Sometimes they are, but the real leaders are the ones who risk something, the ones who challenge corruption, not cover for it, the ones who show up, speak truth, and stay when the cameras leave. God bless the officials and journalists who keep it real. Some of this weariness comes from watching people act like leaders while the people suffer. And there is another kind of exhaustion. There is the exhaustion that Sarah Bessey names, and then there is the exhaustion that comes from living under a regime that chooses fear and scapegoating over humanity. I think here of ordinary immigrants and undocumented families who carry a level of stress that much of the nation barely acknowledges. And those who do notice, I know you applaud, they are your heroes. Because these days, we have parents who are afraid to drive to work because of new enforcement sweeps. Families skipping hospitals because they fear their information will be shared. Workers who keep this country functioning but now feel hunted. Children who flinch every time there's a knock at the door. This administration has made it a point to weaponize anxiety, to target the most vulnerable in order to look strong. And the cruelty is not incidental, it's the strategy. So when Sarah Bessey names our collective weariness, I think of the immigrant mother who holds all of her hope and her fear in the same small body. I think of families whose lives are shaped by policies crafted by people who will never meet them. These are just some of the pressures that are part of the state of everything. And they make Robert Frost's quiet, snowy pause feel even more rare and necessary. And there's more pressure we're dealing with. The economy. Again, this is not collateral damage, it's all intentional damage. The daily grind, where eggs cost more than gas used to, and rent is outpacing paychecks. It's not just inflation, it's the erosion of stability. A graduate is buried under student loans with no clear path forward. The elder splits pills to stretch prescriptions. Communities who are pushed to the edge, already underpaid, already overworked, are hit hardest by systems that were never built for our survival. And just mentioning such distress makes some able-bodied white people feel attacked. And this is why Marvin Gaye sang Inner City Blues, and I quote, "Oh, make me want to holler and throw up both my hands." Economic strain is spiritual strain. It hollows out hope. Justice feels like a luxury when survival is the full-time job. This too is part of the miles we walk. So when I came back to Robert Frost's poem, not as a student memorizing stanzas, but as someone who has lived through joy, loss, protest, fatigue, beauty, miracles, love, bitterness, heartbreak. It feels like in this poem, I was finding a truth that was waiting for me, especially this line. I'll read it again. Whose woods these are, I think I know. the darkest evening of the year. See, Robert Frost wrote this in 1922. I wonder if he wrote it on December 21st, the literal darkest evening of the year. It feels like right now the world is in a continuous loop of December 21st. And when I read this poem, the woods feel like a spiritual threshold, a place where the noise finally stops and your soul can breathe. The woods feel like the divine mystery the mystics wrote about, a cloud of unknowing, a presence dark and deep, a silence where God is not explained but encountered. But the woods also feel like escape, not in a self-destructive way, but in the deeply human longing to step away from the world's relentless demands, from injustice, from the constant vigilance required of Black life, from the heartbreak of watching Gaza burn, from the weariness of ICE raids and detention centers, from violence ignored by polite society because it disrupts their comfort. The woods are beautifully set here for us because they promise a moment without all of that. But beauty can also be a temptation. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. It's the dark that matters, the kind of darkness that is not evil but enveloping, a darkness that feels like rest. When you've spent decades fighting for justice, telling the truth, challenging systems of violence, speaking up for Palestinians long before October of 2023, when many clergy recoil speaking up, advocating for immigrants and the poor, darkness starts to look like relief. It's a discovery that some people make early in life, but many of us only learn this after seasons at age 50, 60, 70. But the poem doesn't leave us in the woods. Frost gives us a horse, this sensible creature shaking its harness bells. It is living in right relationship with your life. It is conscience, it's your calling. It's that tug back into the world with its responsibilities. The horse is strong when we feel weak. It's the awareness that people count on us, not for perfection, but for presence, for steadiness, for witness. Maybe all of us here today are each other's horse. Maybe the people in our life, maybe our family. And then comes the line that feels like a spiritual vow. But I have promises to keep. You see, back when I was a teenager, I don't think I would have grasped the significance, but now I do, I think. Promises to keep. To the people I love, to you, to the oppressed, to the truth, to the work I've tried to do my whole adult life. When I first read Frost, I didn't really understand miles. I knew about running cross country back in the day and the bus ride home. But miles, real life miles, are something you earn with time. So when Frost repeats, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And when Peter read it last week, I felt like I heard a quaver in his voice. It was real. I feel the repetition in my bones. Those are the miles of truth-telling in communities that preferred denial, speaking up for immigrants when the media demonized them, even when no one is clapping, even when the woods still call. These are the miles that high school me could not have learned from Frost, and yet somehow this poem finds me later, right when I finally need a companion for the road. So I'll close by just saying, this is a word for the weary. If you are tired, body, mind, or spirit, know that you are not alone in your weariness. And if the woods look beautiful right now, I get it. They are lovely, dark, and deep. But we have promises to keep. And we are still moving on. Not because we're always strong, but because someone is watching. Someone is waiting. Someone is walking behind us, and someone is walking beside us. There are still miles to go.
Well, thank you, Pastor David. There's still miles to go. I love the song that we opened up with, and going through the night or through the dark. At the end of my days, Lord, find me to be faithful, find me to be grateful, and find me to be thankful. And I think it kind of loops in with the Robert Frost poem there. You know, at the end of our day is going to be what counts. Take it away, Lene.
Well, I have a couple of questions about things in the poem that I'm unsure of, but I
Me
guess I
too.
would ask I would ask first of all, how do you juxtapose that responsibility, that sense of keeping on, and the village that's calling you to keep your promises? And the horse is kind of like shaking the bells and reminding you you have duties and responsibilities. How do you juxtapose that with the idea of a Sabbath? I mean, can't you just duck into the woods for a minute? And what he will not see me stopping here. Okay, so that must mean the people waiting back in the village, right? Or those people that you owe something to, a completion or what have you. I don't know if I'm making sense, but Dr. David has something. But did you, Pastor Moore, have any response to that?
I only have the same question. It seems like the dark woods at some level are legit and real and inviting. But also we have promises to keep. And I think we have to, you use the word juxtapose. I think that we just have to juxtapose the significance of both, because what can I say? I'm just the preacher.
You can say a lot.
Well, it's a beautiful poem and a beautiful message as always. But what I really wanted to say, Pastor, is happy birthday and many more.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dave.
is today the day then?
Tuesday.
Okay. Any
You're
moment.
muted. David's talking, but he's muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, of course. December 2nd. Right.
Okay, yeah. Does anybody else have any responses to the message or questions?
To your part, Linnea, I guess I think of the woods as maybe calling it the weary land, and so, and it's okay to be in the weary land, but not of the weary land. So, meaning the weary land can kind of consume us, and it can be nice to be there. Actually, we can escape to it, but it's like not where we're supposed to be. And I guess I see the horse's harness shaking as kind of like faith. Like my faith is shaken right now, but like I got to keep being carried by something. In the village, I'm not quite sure what to make of the village yet. Village might be the comfortable place, the place. I'm not sure if it's meant to be in a I don't want to make it a duality, but like a negative or a positive place. But like I'm not sure if it's meant to be like a comfortable place or a place where we're actually talking about community. Because I think there is a thing where we want to be raised. We talk about being like a village being we being raised by a village, but we often don't want to be a village, and so we're still stuck in this notion of individualism. So we kind of see it from the outside, I think. So, yeah, I guess that's my
Yeah.
reflections on what you asked.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it's whose woods these are, I think I know. And then my first thought was, okay, God's woods. But then he says his house is in the village, though,
Yeah.
and he will not see me stopping. Go ahead.
So what you're reading now is it's private property. And so I got to be honest, when I first heard Peter read this last week, and this may totally not be related to the actual intent of the poet, but I thought capitalism and private property.
Well, yeah, huh?
I mean that just kind of maybe distorts everything, but I mean that's just what.
Well,
That was my first impression, that he was on this private property and the owner was in the village, and the horse knew it, and the horse was saying, "Hey, we got to get out of here."
You would be wise to know whose property that is, right?
Well, that's interesting because Sarah, after last week, got her Robert Frost book, and we read some Robert Frost together. And she, in the book, the compilation book, it was Robert Frost spoke at John F. Kennedy's inauguration, and the poem that he shared there was one of him calling this land our land and talking about the possessiveness of this land and how to be grateful for this land. It was a positive notion, but it was one of conquest and possessiveness.
Yeah.
And so I think your Robert Frost was not a what we would call a liberal. I mean, maybe he was like liberal in his way of like spiritual connectedness, but he wasn't.
He was not radical.
So
yeah, wasn't aware of.
So I think your intonation there is pretty close, but I think what we can read into it, and it meets us in all these different angles, is very important. That's what poetry does, So.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And Caroline's had her hand up.
Oh, hi.
And then Michael, and then Shella.
I was just gonna say, because we sort of I live across the road from the snowy woods now, and when I heard this poem or read it, it made me think of just like a liminal space, like sort of, I sit here and I look at the snow in the woods, and I feel like there's this magic there that, like, it's almost super real to me. Like I feel like I can almost touch it. And I don't know that's necessarily what we're talking about now, but that's what I feel when I see the snowy woods across the way. I feel this magic that I can almost reach out and touch, and there's no other time that magic feels so close. And it's funny, like where we live, there's a lot, I think I've mentioned this before, that there's little cemeteries everywhere. So there's like a tiny little cemetery about 200 feet up the road from me. And there's something about that, and reading this poem and thinking of that, it's just, you can almost sort of get lost in time and just feel time in a different way, which I know isn't really what we're discussing today, but that's just what the poem made me think of.
Well, that fits.
So,
Especially with the line, the darkest evening of the year.
I know it's magic. There's some magic in the woods, and I love feeling that, even if I don't understand it or see it.
Mm-hmm. You don't happen to have any frozen lakes nearby, do you?
Probably, yeah.
I happen to have the poem right here in front of me, so I have that advantage. So
The only time in my life I spent significant time in snow, I was in 3 months of snow where Peter Fitch lives when I had a sabbatical some years ago, maybe a dozen years ago or more. And a very poignant memory is I remember I was on Skype. This was when FaceTime was just coming in. And I was on Skype with my dad, and I turned my laptop around to show him out my window. All these houses were covered with snow in the streets and the yards, and it insulates, so you don't hear the sound of the airplanes and the cars and you don't hear. So there's a softness, and I'm sure Caroline, I mean, she can relate to the insulation now. So there is a quietness that comes, and I imagined that when reading this poem as well.
Mm-hmm. And I like the what you said, Caroline, about it's liminal. It's a pause of uncertainty. It's pausing maybe in indecision, just kind of hovering between two types of existence, I guess. And let's see, who was next? Diane.
Michael.
Okay.
No, I
Yeah,
just
Mike.
had my thumb up
Okay.
when David was talking because I
Okay.
agreed with him. That's all.
All right. Well, then, Chella.
So I was just thinking of who would be the people who would want to go out into those dark and quiet and the deep woods just to be maybe relieved of things, and then to even have to think that that there's someone who owns this and they don't even know that I'm even there, but they have control of all of this. And that's when they first read it, when Peter Fitch first read it, I thought of the house below, the house in the village. It's probably a huge mansion where someone lives that owns all of that. And we're not, but the person there is just needing to relieve all the things that they have to deal with every day. Just being a Black woman working in a mental health facility, it feels like I take on, it's like there's something in me. I know it's the Spirit of God that allows people to come and just want to be close. It's not about me. It's not me. It's the Spirit of God. They need to tell me things. They need to be, and I know, Pastor Di, about that, because people come to you and they want to hold on to you, and you give them what you can, but then you're the quiet woods, the peace, beauty.
Steal away.
I could, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Caroline recommended also in the chat a poem by Mary Oliver. I have one of her books called Devotions that is all of her hiking, being out in nature. And wow, any of those could be a companion to this poem. And I see Julius.
Mhm.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to revisit this poem again. And one question that Linnea had was, how do we juxtapose responsibility and the village calling and keeping promises with the idea of the Sabbath? And I think I have something to bring to the table on this, given my Adventist background, because this question comes up a lot. You know, the things you can do on the Sabbath, what are the things you can't do on the Sabbath? And it's always important to keep in mind that Jesus said, you know, Sabbath was made for man.
Right.
Man was not made for the Sabbath. So remember that the spiritual elders at the time, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, they thought they caught Jesus helping to feed people on the Sabbath, and they wanted to test him. And they said, how could you feed people on the Sabbath? And you know, he's like, well, doing good things on the Sabbath is you know, you're not going to be condemned for that. So, but we all need rest. There's only 24 hours in the day, and you do function better when you've gotten your rest and your sleep over a 24-hour period. And there are benefits to at least taking one day out of the week, preferably the Sabbath, to rest and recharge your batteries. But if circumstances call for you to do something good for someone on the Sabbath, there's no contradiction there. And Jesus was the example of that. But onto the poem, one thing I thought of in terms of the rider on the horse staring into the woods, thinking about the owner of the land, but the owner of the land can't see him right now, and he's just taking a moment. But his horse is trying to tug him forward because he remembers they've got promises to keep. I think of the working people over generations and generations and generations and generations. And when I say working people, people that work for a living, who live off of their wages, who in our modern American parlance, we would call their living paycheck to paycheck. Some don't even have a paycheck. They just work whatever job they can find during the day. And they have responsibilities to themselves, to their families, to their children. And I put myself amongst them, we are getting hit on all sides right now by a class of people that are non-working people. Mm-hmm. We call them, in our modern parlance in the United States, the 1%. And you could even slice it even further, maybe the 10th of 1%. And when I think of the 10th of 1%, and when the poem refers to the owner of the land not knowing that they're there, those are the working people that feel like, wow, it's a privilege just to be here. And at least in this little nook, this strip of land, the owner's too far away to see me, so I can just linger here a little bit. And I imagine, what if we had a world where working people didn't have to shudder like that? And they didn't have to worry about the owner maybe saying something, or calling the police, or calling the sheriff, or calling someone to haul them away from their land, where working people had enough to eat, had reasonable health care and shelter, didn't have to worry about their kids going hungry. Because when we think about it, there is enough for all of us. And rather than blaming poor folks and working people for their circumstances, we should be challenging the systems, because these are political decisions. And we may all feel powerless, and we've been toiling, pushing against this system. But remember, we're not the first ones to challenge. poor folk have been challenging for generations, for millennia. And by their very existence, by the fact that they said, I could just lay down and rest forever, but you know what? I have promises to keep. So tomorrow I'm going to wake up, put on my hard hat, go into the factory and work so that my kids can maybe have a better life than I do. So thank you, Pastor Moore, for the message. We are all weary, but we stand on the shoulders of ancestors, of working people.
Amen.
Who, because they got up, that's the only reason we're all here.
Thank you.
Because they didn't give up. Because they looked after our grandfathers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our great-grandfathers, and keep going back and back and back and back. They didn't give up, despite the horrible circumstances some of our family members or ancestors went through. I don't care whether you're Irish, Scottish, German, right? I don't care if you're of African descent from Asian countries. If you were working class in those societies, life wasn't easy. And so that was my takeaway. And we should never feel a contradiction between resting on the Sabbath and doing something worthwhile for our fellow human beings on the Sabbath. So, thank you.
Good.
Julius, thank you.
Julia?
As you were talking, Julius, it made me wonder if our Sabbath is when we fulfill our promises, and not detour into these wonderful, appealing, dark woods, but understand, and also that, again, the horse is stronger than we are. We're weary, but we have resources that are keeping us going. Yeah. Yes, Julia.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, Julius. Thank you for that right there. That was just pump me up a little further. I'm going to tell you something. As a new homeowner, I'm only part of the system because I need to be. But the truth of the matter is the system needs to be rethought completely. Ownership of any property should be illegal. There should be no such thing. We cannot own it. We don't exist beyond our lifetime. So why would we own it? What we do is get an opportunity to be a steward of where we stay. And so guess what? Instead of applying for a home loan, you apply for a land lend, where you're going to tell them how you're going to manage that land and how you're going to care for it and how you're going to make it livable for the next person. You know what? A whole system where, guess what? It's an agreement we have. You own this. That's what they say. Guess what? I don't say you own it because you don't own it. It's a social agreement. And as a society, when we say no more, guess what? I don't care that 0.5%, that really gets to be outnumbered when the rest of the world says no more. Sorry, you don't own it. And that money is valueless to us. You can take that money and rub it in your chest, because what we're going to do is, as a society, say the hamster wheel, we're stepping out of it. No more paycheck to paycheck. We don't agree on your system. It's a construct that we're not about. And the more we start educating each other about that, the more we unify, the closer that comes to being a reality. And it's true, Julius. We are standing on the shoulders of those before us. And guess what? I'm reaching back and trying to get somebody on my shoulder. I want to continue to do that because it is a social movement. Julia says it all the time. You know what? It's frustrating to watch the world go over this. No, but it's a cycle that is continually cleansing the world, and as a society, as a whole. Spiritually, we're growing. And right now, as everything goes crazy in the world, I love these days. I don't get tired. My perseverance gets stronger because my faith is what does that for me. You know what? It's faith without works is dead. I sit around and I'm happy. When I see the things that are going on in the world, it's disturbing. And it's okay to be happy and disturbed at the same time. I can't allow the disturbance to destroy my joy. And I'll bring that joy and say, guess what? You know what? That sucks. And guess what? I love you still. And I'm still going to persevere and be a better person today. And I'm going to try and spread that joy. You know what I mean? That's what we do. I love our little groups on this Sunday. That's where I get my juice. So the Sabbath for me is regenerating and rejuvenating all that strength to walk through the week and go spread that joy.
Get a big Clint.
Clint for president.
Yay.
You know, you reminded me, Clint, of I heard a Black woman say a couple of days, no, just yesterday. She was talking about, and you know, I've always thought this way. You know, you hear people talk about emancipated slaves being promised 40 acres and a mule, and I've always thought, how can you give away land that you don't own?
Right.
Right? This is a system. And so she said yesterday, she said, yeah, I want to negotiate my 40 acres with an indigenous chief and see if we can just, arrange something where I can work the land. And I felt that, you know, I felt like, yeah, we need somewhere to be. So let me talk to the indigenous people. Well, Kenichi's going to lead us in communion today. You're muted.
You're muted.
Before taking communion, a couple of things I wanted to share. For me, and I think Peter Fitch kind of alluded to it, that is, the character comes into this place in the woods, and he's looking around. I'm just imagining, and it's the thought like, I'm here, nobody's watching me, nobody knows that I'm here. You know, I'm just here. And in that space, it's quite easy. And this is where it connects to Pastor David. You mentioned about those who claim to be leaders, but they're not leading. If I could use the word fake, they are just jabbering, no substance. So, you know, there's a sense of, I don't need to be accountable. I mean, nobody knows I'm here. I just live out my life the way, you know, I want to, kind of thing. But then there is this reminder, there is something I need to contribute to humanity. And that I must do before, you know, Sayuri and I was just talking, before I sleep, meaning before I die. And so I must be true to who I am, no matter what, whether people see me or know where I'm at. I need to live up life of integrity and, contribute what I was born for, what I'm here for, no matter what, to be true. And connecting with Sabbath, I have began to think that, yes, there is that rest element, but the rest element really is to be grounded so that we can live out our genuine self. That to me is an expression of Sabbath, that we come in touch with who we are and we live that out, our genuine self. Whether people see us, people hear us, people notices us, we live that out faithfully. So I wanted to just share that. And the beauty of poetry, like art, is you look at it and it speaks so many different ways, depending on our social location, our upbringing, our cultural backgrounds, all kinds of things, you know. So anyway, on the night when the Lord's Supper took place, their darkest hour for the people, for the disciples who followed Jesus was encroaching, and when Jesus took the elements, from their dinner table, and broke the bread, said, "This is my body. Take, eat," and then the cup symbolizing the blood in the New Testament in the new covenant, I felt he was saying, yes, the darkest period of your lives are coming, but know that I am with you always. And these are the symbols that I want you to hold on to and keep reminding yourselves, I am with you always. I see you, I notice you, live out your genuine life. So with that spirit, let's all partake. The body of Christ broken for us. The blood of Christ shed for us. And thank you, God, Emmanuel, God with us. Amen.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. God bless you all.
God bless you. You doing okay, Sissy? Oops, he's gone.
No, I'm here. I just,
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I'm in fade mode.
All right. You are here.
Yeah,
That's
Brother
what counts.
Julius, oh, thank you so much. Brother Julius, you always come through so insightful. And Shella, I loved what you shared. Sissy, do you remember when I think we were looking for a gas station when we were up for Columba's services and we saw the land, right? I have forever talked about how unjust it is that all of this land, this beautiful, gorgeous land, and so few that call it theirs.
Yeah.
You know? But there was a point in where I mentioned something about look at all of the food there, you know, they would just let us go glean.
That's
Right?
right. Yeah.
You remember that?
I remember that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, Sally,
Yeah,
when we
that's
went to
Rosie. That's the poem. That's the owner's not even there. He owns it. He doesn't even have to live there. I mean,
right,
why?
right, exactly, exactly.
I remember all the deer we saw.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Are you saying something, Rosie, to me?
I was gonna say when we were at Tanya's when we went to Tanya's anniversary.
Yeah, yes.
That park, that place there. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Beautiful. And again, you know, we see all the beauty. And one thing that I often wonder is how it is that there are vast numbers of peoples that don't even trip on that at all whatsoever. It's just kind of like because I've been told this, you know, like, oh, there you go with your radical thinking again, Rosie, you know. But that really does, blow my mind.
They accept the status quo. This is just how
Correct.
it's always been. This is how it's
Right.
gonna be, and you know,
Right.
they don't think too
Yeah,
much about it.
right. Yeah, we've been conditioned to believe that, well, they own it, it's theirs, and
Mhm.
they have it, so it's, that's the way it is.
And
But then you have
capitalism is a bully
Capitalism,
system.
girl. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
They knew they everything was them and they were everything. That I mean, we wouldn't be as stressed out as we are now if we lived like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. I'm sorry. Does somebody else have their hand up? Because
No, we're
that
just
that
talking.
I had to come over here. I came over here because I have my phone in the other room charging to throw the heart in the clap when Brother Julius was talking and a few other of you. I was just over here in agreement and whatnot. But I was thinking what he said and what my mom said this whole time. And okay, y'all are gonna get maybe I don't know. It's not
I
an
seriously
offense
doubt it.
intended, but it's my truth, right? So last week I loved what Brother Peter brought, and at the same time I had a visceral reaction at the beginning, similar to what Kenichi and Matt talked about when they said, "Oh, was it Peter or Paul? Like I'm a hater of this prophet because of all of what's been derived from his teachings." And so
Oh.
low-key, when the message started again, and I knew what it was going to be. Well, I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I knew we were going to be revisiting the poem. But at the same time, I was like, man, him again? Like, I've been hearing about this poem I memorized these poems when I was little. You know what I mean? And I get it. There's a lot to be explored. But
Yeah.
but I have a thorn about it. I'm rocky. I'm not smooth when it comes to certain things. And it's because I was raised by somebody who taught me that it's a fraud, that
Right.
there's quote unquote ownership when this shit is fucking stolen. Excuse my language. And and the thing about what was just said, and this is why I had to run over here and get my phone, is because it was said that people accept the status quo, that we're taught this is how it's always been. But the reality is that this place, to which many of us, it is our government because of where we were born, and that comes with a lot when you choose to not be ignorant about what it entails, what my country has done in the little glimpse of time that it has existed throughout
Right.
history. So to say that it's been this way, no, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Columba Quintero Presente is
Amen.
a descendant of indigenous people whose land was stolen.
We all are.
My friend Franny, who's my elder, is a descendant of people whose land in Montecito was stolen.
Yes.
That history is not that long ago. It's right here on the other side of a shadow.
Yeah.
And it's to choose to walk in that line of thinking is exactly that. It's a choice.
Well, Hasmi,
And it's
what part of what
it's
you're saying could be offensive?
Right?
Go, girl.
I'll turn my camera on to throw away.
Hey, it's only the racists that get offended when you call them a racist.
Yeah, go on. Mad love.
But yeah,
thing is,
like as far as time and history, like this place has barely been around. And the people that we descend from,
Right.
they're from way before these